Hello, Echo here. I have Blast Off to Reading, and this was recommended by a friend of mine. She has several kids that she's homeschooled, and most, all, if not all of them have dyslexia. A couple have graduated, and then she's got some still at home that she's working through, but she said that this book was really helpful for her kids. So I thought I would give this a try this summer because I know for sure my oldest has dyslexia. We haven't gotten him tested, but even in his name, he'll reverse letters, or when he was sight reading, especially when he was starting, he would start like in the middle of the word and then kind of work backward. And there's other signs too. And then signs of just because it's learning with your right brain. So he can visualize things 3D. He's a great artist. So just all those signs of him being a right brain learner. I don't feel like I need the diagnosis to know like what's going to help him. And then my middle son has also been struggling with reading. He took off pretty fast and even passed his older brother, but now it feels like he's kind of plateaued and he's having a hard time getting up to the next level of going from sounding things out to being more proficient and fluent in his reading. And then my youngest, he really hasn't struggled at all, and he's reading chapter books already. So I don't know if he's advanced or just normal, but he's not struggling. But because I do have the two older ones that are struggling, we've got an 11-year-old and a 10-year-old, I decided that I would get this book and give it a try because she recommended it. And just looking through it, I think this looks really good, really straightforward and step-by-step, which is what I want. I know my oldest one, he's learned a lot of reading skills, and so it's just really working on the fluency now, and also just making sure that there aren't any like little gaps of different sounds that he hasn't learned or little blends that he hasn't learned in there or isn't as confident with. So I really wanted to give you guys a look inside when I started looking into this because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so straightforward and simple. And I think this is going to be a great thing for us to do over the summertime. And hopefully I'll be able to do an update video too as we use it. But here's a peek inside to let you know how it works. Time for a real page turner. Blast Off to Reading. This uses the Orton-Gillingham based method, and they do have an app online that goes along with this that you can use as well. Right here you can see from the table of contents that it goes step by step through the different sounds, and I really like that. I feel like that's going to make it easy to see if there are certain ones that are harder for my sons or if they really are proficient in this, and it's just being patient, taking time, just working on the fluency part of reading. Now right off here they do have a QR code to go and get their instructions online. That way they have the most up-to-date instructions, and then they do have the QR code for their app. You can also buy flashcards on their website, or you can make them yourself. They're based on these sounds that are on the back cover of the book. So the way that the students are going to go through a lesson typically is that you will review flashcards from whatever sounds they've been working on. Then you can use their apps, letter tiles, to do some warm-ups with the sounds that they've been working on. You will check your students' dictations from the lesson before. You'll have them read what they wrote and have them correct it. Dictations are often difficult for students. They have a low accuracy rate expected. So that's something that you will want to go over with your student too, just so that they don't feel discouraged right off if they're getting things incorrect. Tell them, no, they said it this way so that you can correct your stuff, and that's part of the practicing. Then you're going to do the lesson in this book with your student and have them do the exercises. Then you assign the next dictations and have your student do any other online activities with their app. Now, once you're past lesson 19, you're going to do a reading with them from whatever book they choose for 10 minutes, and they use the side-by-side reading technique. I'll tell you a little bit about that. And that's when you start doing the side-by-side method, which is partnered reading. So you want to have one reader that's a proficient reader, they call them a PR, and then you have your learning reader. And what the proficient reader will do is point to each word as the reader is sounding them out. If they get a word wrong, then the proficient reader will tap twice. So it's giving this like subtle clue for them to reread the word that they got incorrect. If the learning reader is struggling, the proficient reader will give them a moment and then ask if they want them to help. That way they don't feel anxious, like, oh, they're going to read it for me, or they said some kids do want them to read it for you, so you just don't know. So at least you're asking first. And then when they need help, what the proficient reader will do is they will cover up, let me see if I can find a word here. They will cover up the words with their finger so that you can sound it out one at a time. So, om, sk, and go that way. Homeschool is such a bad word to pick to sound out, isn't it? Because it has the CH sound. But you get my point. You get the way that it's supposed to work. And then if the student is getting frustrated, or if it is taking a really long time for them to sound it out, then the proficient reader would read it for them and help them move along. They also said, because, you know, this could be a text that's advanced for them. Same thing, if they're getting frustrated, if it's taking a long time or anything like that, then they can read a paragraph, and then the proficient reader can read a paragraph. And so they can go back and forth that way. And they said only do this for 10 minutes. So hopefully it doesn't get too frustrating for them. They recommend that you do this program 2 to 5 days per week, ideally 5, of course, and for 30 to 45 minutes, always doing it one-on-one. They have a different way of sounding things out in here. So you'll see here in the lesson part, here they have quotations around these letters, and that means that you actually say the letter, C, G. But, for example, over here, where they have these slash marks, you're going to say the sound, eh, I, ah. So you really want to look out for that, especially as you're going through, you'll see it more, and I'll show you as we go through how they have that written out. Now, they said that a lesson is not necessarily done in one sitting. You work as long as you can, or the 30 to 45 minutes, depending on your student. If a student's getting tired or frustrated, it's okay to take a break. It's better that they are able to retain stuff, that it stays pleasant for them, that you're not making this miserable for them, than to just keep forcing them through for a certain amount of pages or a certain time on the clock. Don't skip any of the lessons. So like when I'm looking at this, I can see that this is stuff that definitely my sons have learned. But maybe it'll build confidence, or maybe I will notice something that, oh yeah, okay, they're not as confident with that. So maybe we need to have a flashcard that we work on. Or maybe that's something, you know, when we're reading through it in the book, I can really keep an eye out for books that have that sound for them to practice. Okay, so I'll show here like lesson 3. It says right in the top where the little gremlin guy is, that's the teacher part. So here you're reviewing the flashcards, and then you do a warm-up for the vowel-consonant, consonant-vowel combinations, just like you did in the last lesson. So using lowercase letter tiles, or magnetic letters, or the web apps letter tile games, you can practice those with your student. Then here's the lesson. Here we have a short vowel in between two consonants, just like a sandwich. Consonant, vowel, consonant. Read the words below. So here your student will be reading them. And if you're not confident on how to sound things out, look up a video or something so that you know how to sound it out with your student. Make sure that like T is not ta, and it's not T, it's t. And then O is ah. And P is not pa, it's p. So learning those things will help you as you teach your students. So make sure that you've gone over all those, all the sounds of the alphabet for yourself before you start. Okay, then here they're circling the middle short vowel sound that they hear for these pictures. Here they're filling in the missing short vowel sounds. Here they're circling which word it should be. And then here again mixing the middle, circling the middle sound, filling in the missing letters, circling the correct word. Okay, you can see it's repeating very similar exercises here at the beginning. Now here we're at the end, and you can see again there's this little teacher icon. So this is what you're going to do. Assign the dictations for this lesson. At the start of your next lesson, you should review how your student spelled the words and sentences, have them read to you what they wrote, and make the necessary corrections. Also, if using the app, be sure you have your student do the activities for short vowels and CVC words. So let me show you how the dictation works, and then I'll show you more lessons in the book. So this is the dictation sheet. There's a few pages, I think it was 5 pages that you can print off for free from their website. And there's little notes in here too. But what you'll be doing is reading these to your student at the end of the lesson when it prompts you to do so. And they're going to write it in a separate book. And then at the beginning of the next lesson, they'll pull out their book, and that's when they have to read what they wrote. So for example, let's say that it's pot, but they spelled it with an A. You're not going to say to them, oh, no, pot has an O. You're going to say to them, oh, sound out that word that you wrote. What word did you write? And they'll go, pat, pat. And you'll say, oh, the word was pot. Do you hear that there's a different vowel sound in there? What vowel sound do we hear in pot? And then hopefully they can identify that ah is O, and they will correct it themselves. So that's part of why they're okay with a low accuracy rate, because they're going to be sounding it out themselves and correcting their own work, and that will be good practice for them. So here you can see, I'll go ahead too, here's like the lessons in the 20s. You can see how the words have gotten significantly more difficult. And here on the last page, these lessons are in the 40s. So this really does take them up through all the sounds. And it does have a little bit of grammar in there. Like I know it covers plural nouns and syllables and things like that. So, but not a lot of grammar. This is definitely not a grammar curriculum, but enough for when it relates to what they're learning with reading. All right, we'll flip ahead to the middle of the book. Okay, so right here, past tense words, adding ed, or actually we would read this ed because it's in the quotations. Review the flashcards and check any dictations that may need to be checked. Before proceeding, you may want to tell your student what past tense means. Okay, and then right here, explaining it out, how sometimes it has the t sound instead of the d sound. Okay, right down here you can see an example of what I was talking about with the slash mark. So if the word ends with a t or d sound, then you hear the id, which adds another syllable to the word. So here, because it's in the slashes, we're going to sound it out and not spell it out. Okay, and then here they're reading the words below, reading the sentences, circling the ending sound as I have the t or d sound at the end. Here's some rules for adding them if there's a double letter or changing the Y to an I, things like that. Putting these words into their past tense, words that end with a consonant followed by Y. So it's great, it goes through lots of different things here. The irregular past tense verbs, drawing lines to match, filling in the blanks. And then at the end here, the little teacher part says, assign the dictations for this lesson. I love when the teacher's manual is right in the thing and when it's not a ton of reading. That definitely makes me feel less overwhelmed. So I do appreciate that. There are some reviews too. As you go through, it's like every maybe 10 lessons or so, there's a review. Let me see. Go through. Yeah, so you can see the reviews here. So yeah, after every 10 lessons, they'll have a review. So let's look, we're almost to the end of 30 here. Okay, so lesson 30 happens, and then they review those last 10 lessons that you had. So always reviewing the flashcards and checking dictation, but here it'll be all the words that they've been working on. So reading them, matching them, crossword puzzle. I do like how it's pretty simplistic on the page and the words are written in nice big font, so I feel like that won't be overwhelming to the students. Okay, so that's it for the review. See, here we go, plural nouns. So it covers other things like that, but as they relate to reading. Okay, we'll turn to the end so you can see some of the end lessons right here. Here we have f and k as ought and ought. Oh, see, I read that wrong. I'm going to have to get into this. Okay, so inside the quotations, we're going to spell it, right? So PH and GH as f, AUGH and OUGH. So that's the way that you would read that. Sounding out if it's in the slash, but spelling it if it's in the quotations. Reviewing flashcards, check dictation. Okay, so the way we'd read this is PH usually has the f sound. And then they're learning the lesson part. And again, the exercises that go along with that. AUGHT and OUGHT both have the ought sound. Okay, and learning that together, filling in the blanks, circling the words, matching, and assigning the dictations. I like how it's very similar things too as far as flashcard, dictation,
and then the exercises. So I feel like it will be easy to get into the groove with this too and not feel like there's a bazillion moving parts with it. Okay, there's the lesson review for 41 through 50 here at the end. So you can see it gets them right up into all the kinds of words that they need to read, need to learn. Well, I hope this was a helpful look inside the Blast Off to Reading, and I am looking forward to using this summer. Remember that real life is messy and beautiful, and better with books.
Is it lesson 19? I don't know where my note is. Okay. And I'm pretty sure it's 19. I believe it's 19. I can't put as much time into it as those. Let's not say that. Just go step by step. This is so. Just go, where they hit. Not hit. Is it lesson 19?